On this Prison Chronicles profile, we are profiling Robert Wayne Vickers. Robert Wayne Vickers was just a teenager when he was sentenced to the Arizona Department of Corrections in 1977 for committing 12 burglaries in 13 days in the city of Tempe. He was sentenced for that crime to 3 to 9 years for grand theft. However, he would never see the streets as a free man again. Robert was not a big dude. He was 6'1", tall and pretty skinny, weighing in at only 148 pounds. If one did not know better, you could not be blamed for thinking he was just like anyone else on the yard. He had gained a reputation for violence in the juvenile system. However, the crime that brought him to prison was a non-violent one. He was 19 years old when he was sentenced to prison and arrived in Florence, Arizona in 1977. He was still a teenager and may have felt he needed to engage in assaultive behavior to keep inmates away from him. When Vickers arrived to prison, it was a violent place. That year, there had been a violent one with 23 stabbings and 7 murders at the Florence prison. He assaulted some black inmates, probably in an attempt to establish himself and impress the white prison gang, the Aryan Brotherhood. In February of 1978, he stabbed Homer Burns with a shank, prison-made knife. He was convicted of this stabbing and sentenced to 10 to 15 years for it. Robert Vickers requested to be cellmates with Frank Ponciano, who was serving time for second-degree murder at the time, because Frank had a TV. On October 4th, 1978, Frank did not wake Robert up when lunch was passed out and made the mistake of drinking Robert Vickers' Kool-Aid while he slept. When Robert woke up and realized this, he became enraged. He proceeded to strangle Frank with a knotted-up bed sheet and stab him 10 times in the back and side with a sharpened toothbrush. Vickers then used the sharpened end of the toothbrush and carved the word bonsai into the back of the dead man. The press later made a big deal of the fact that Robert Vickers misspelled bonsai, the word that was a Japanese patriotic cheer or war cry. And from then on, Robert Vickers would be known as Bonsai Bob, or just plain Bonsai by inmates and guards alike. Vickers himself would sign all his future correspondence with Bonsai Bob, using a miniature swastika dotting the letter I after this. Bonsai was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death for this crime. At the trial, it came out that correction staff had missed finding Ponciano dead at least for one count. It was not discovered until Bonsai himself called over a guard and told him to get him out of there. When the guard hesitated as if he did not believe Bonsai, he burned a cigarette on Ponciano's foot to prove he was dead and told the guard, "Get this stinking asshole out of my cell." In 1981, Bonsai was scheduled to be executed, but a stay was granted by U.S. District Judge Carl Muecki. Bonsai was mad about this because he had asked to be executed and told the press that he hoped someone snuffs Judge Muecki's mama, and said he would carve the judge's name on his next victim. On March of 1982, Bonsai was working as a porter cleaning a 4-man pod area. The other 3 inmates were locked in their cells. Buster Holsinger, a fellow death row inmate, made a lewd comment about Bonsai's teenage niece. Bonsai had shown him a picture and a drawing he had received earlier in the day in a letter. Holsinger then asked Bonsai if he had ever performed a certain sex act on his niece. Namely, he asked him if he had ever ate her out. Bonsai became infuriated and went back to his cell and made a homemade bomb out of an ice cream carton, 5 bottles of Vitalis hair oil, and some toilet paper, which he used as a fuse. Bonsai went to the front of the Holsinger's cell, lit the oil, and tossed the burning carton into Holsinger. When there were not enough flames to engulf Holsinger, Bonsai tossed more hair oil onto him. Holsinger's cell was filled with smoke and flames as his mattress, bedding, and other items caught fire. Holsinger died from inhaling the hot fumes of the burning oil. When asked by the corrections officer if Holsinger was dead, Bonsai stated, "He should be, he's on fire." The 2 other inmates in the pod had to be hospitalized for smoke inhalation, and death row had to be evacuated. Afterward, Bonsai told investigators, "I told them they should have gassed me in December when they had a chance." Banzai defended himself in trial, and during closing he told the jury that he had pled innocent because he just wanted the state to spend money on the trial. The jury took 15 minutes to deliberate and find him guilty. For this, Banzai was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to another sentence of death. Among other things, Banzai became well known for being able to slip out of handcuffs and for making and hiding weapons. In total, he assaulted 12 corrections officers and 20 inmates while in prison. He received disciplinary sanctions for 40 counts of making and possessing weapons. In 1986, Banzai stabbed a guard in his lower side with a homemade spear that he had made out of a sharpened piece of metal that he had taken out of a typewriter. Banzai, while in his cell having just been served breakfast through the food slot of his door, used the spear to stab the CO. In time, special security measures had to be used when dealing with Banzai. In CB6, a special cage was welded to the entrance of his cell. Banzai would have to enter the cage while nude and be visually inspected for weapons, then given clothes to put on and be placed in handcuffs as well as thumb cuffs every time he was brought out of his cell. Later, he was moved to and housed at the SMU, Special Management Unit. At one point, Banzai wrote to Governor Bruce Babbitt, impatiently questioning why he had not been executed yet, writing, "So what's the holdup, fella? If you don't do it soon, I'm going to draw more blood than your cheap mops can absorb." Banzai's defense argued that his violent personality was a construct of the Arizona prison system, which had failed to provide him with the psychiatric help he needed as a teen and instead had raised him in a culture of violence. Banzai spent 17 years on death row before being executed by lethal injection May 5, 1999. His last meal was 2 green chili burritos, French fries with ketchup, vanilla ice cream, cream soda, and a cigarette. Thank you for tuning in. See you on the next one. Hit that like, please.